Now that's what happens when you start a countdown at number 33. You get to the top 30 really quickly, and what do you know? Here we are. We saw the 2009 New York Giants take the number 31 spot, and the team that follows them is coming right up. But first, the fuel for our engine, C-score. C-score is a metric created by this channel that evaluates every single team of the Super Bowl era through the use of many factors, not just its record. For a deeper explanation about how all this works, be sure to check out the description of this video. A quick rundown on how a team qualifies for this list. A season with a positive C-score must be followed up by a season with an even higher C-score that surpasses 15. All this to be followed by a season with a negative C-score. That third season becomes the disappointing one. The bigger the drop from season 2 to season 3, the bigger the disappointment. Now for the team that kicks off our top 30, the 1993 Philadelphia Eagles. Thank you for joining us today. Let's get this thing started. In a relative sense, 1991 was tough times for the Eagles. Outside of their 18th place finish in points scored, everything else looked pretty good here. But a 10-6 record in the stiflingly hard NFC was not good enough for a playoff spot. But it was good enough for a C-score of 11.312. I hope somebody corrects me if I'm wrong here, but I do believe this is the first time on this channel that we've had a chance to discuss this team. Naturally, going 10-6 and not making the playoffs, especially while 4 other teams in the league did so with equal or lesser records, is disheartening. But for these Eagles, there was another layer to it. Coming off the best season of his career to that point, quarterback Randall Cunningham had made the leap to superstardom and was potentially on his way to redefining the position, if he hadn't already done so. Now, this channel does not believe that one person can make a football team. But we're also not foolish enough to believe that winning becomes much easier with such a dynamic talent. So when Cunningham tore his ACL week 1 and was out for the season, it put a crimp in the team's style, to say the least. While backup Jim McMahon wasn't too bad in his place, he didn't offer nearly the same dynamic qualities. And when he himself got hurt, the offense wasn't going anywhere, especially when you consider that the team's leading rusher was James Joseph at just 440 yards all season. Woof. And it was this anemic offense that killed off one of the greatest season-long performances by a defense in NFL history. They were best in the NFL in a lot of categories, as you can see here, and weren't worse than 7th anywhere. All this with an offense that offered little to no support, helping explain why their points allowed doesn't show as impressively as everything else. Because they never got to show their stuff in the playoffs, this Eagles defense did not make it to our top 10 of the Super Bowl era. But that's just the circumstances of a metric sometimes. Much like we did with the 2015 Denver Broncos, this defense deserves its own expose. The Washington Redskins were an all-time great team this season, so it's difficult to say that the Eagles missed out on the opportunity to win a Super Bowl. But it would have been a lot of fun to see these two teams butt heads with each at full strength. Alas, it wasn't meant to be, and this Eagles team goes down as one of the bigger what-ifs in NFL history. Philly came back for 1992, and with almost all of their normal pieces in place, they showed out really well on the field. Unfortunately, 1992 through 1994 was not a good time to be a good team in the NFC because of how dominant the San Francisco 49ers and Dallas Cowboys were. Still, they outscored the league's second hardest schedule by over 100 points, went 11-5, made the playoffs, and landed a C-score of 21.896. They almost had all of their normal pieces in place. On June 25, 1992, Tragedy struck the Eagles and the football world at large when 27-year-old star defensive tackle Jerome Brown was killed in a car accident that also took the life of his 12-year-old nephew Gus. Even though Brown was already a two-time second-team All-Pro, it's a safe bet that he was only getting better and could have been on the track to a Hall of Fame career. Moreover, he was praised as a good man with a loving family that was left to pick up the pieces. More than 33 years later, his legacy endures, and on what would have been his 53rd birthday, the Eagles won their first ever Super Bowl. Time heals all, but it doesn't always remove emotional scars. The Eagles played on though, and as we stated, they played very well, doing much to honor Jerome Brown. Randall Cunningham had returned to the lineup, but with medical technology what it was in 1992, he wasn't able to recapture his outstanding form from 1990. The Eagles started the season 4-0, including handing the Cowboys their biggest loss during their Super Bowl run. They followed that with a 3-5 run, but once again went 4-0 to close out the season and land the NFC's number 5 seed. That sent them on the road to face off with the New Orleans Saints, and in a surprisingly high-scoring game, the Eagles came out on top. All that did though was send them to Dallas, and with the Cowboys on the way to a Super Bowl championship, their season ended on the Texas Stadium field. And now for 1993. This was not the same team, mainly because they lost one of the 5 greatest football players of all time when Reggie White took advantage of this whole new thing in the NFL called unrestricted free agency and signed with the Green Bay Packers. Combining that and the fact that they still finished 8-8 against the league's toughest schedule makes calling them a disappointment kinda cruel. But they fell off just enough to earn that label with their C-score of -0.113. Philly started 4-0 once again, with all 4 wins by 1 score and by a combined total of 17 points. But wins are wins, especially considering that one of them was in Green Bay against Reggie White, and they looked like they were going right back to the playoffs again. But that 4th victory proved costly, as Randall Cunningham was once again lost for the season, and this time wide receiver Fred Barnett would join him. At a certain point, things can be too difficult to overcome, and the Eagles proceeded to immediately lose 6 straight games. Later at 5-8, they were able to pull out 3 straight wins to close out the season, but the damage was already done. Even with all the personnel losses, there was still some talent on this team, but that talent was never maximized, which will now bring us to head coach Rich Kotite. I'm sure Mr. Kotite is a fine man. He played 35 games in the NFL, which is 35 more than the vast majority of all human life. He spent 14 years on NFL sidelines as an assistant coach, but he was way over his head as a head coach. He took over in 1991 and inherited that insanely good defense. But now in his 3rd season at the helm, he had done nothing to justify his continued employment. No Eagles player was made better for having Rich Kotite as his head coach. They were already very good, or they never got there. This was proven when he was hired as head coach of the New York Jets in 1995 and proceeded to win 4 games in 2 seasons. He had setbacks to deal with, sure, but he didn't deal with them well. He didn't even deal with them competently. He's not single-handedly to blame, of course, but as the season wore on, it was clear that there wasn't the same fight in these players, that their confidence was wearing thin, and that their better days had faded into the sunset. Given the benefit of the doubt after 2 strong seasons, Kotite was kept on for 1994, but another massive losing streak, this time 7 games in a row to end the season, showed that what happened in 1993 wasn't such an aberration. Instead, 1993 was the season that ended a run of 5 consecutive seasons with double-digit wins and ended the dream of something bigger, leaving the franchise in an undeniable state of disappointment. We get some more movement on the overall list. The Eagles outscore the Giants here by over a full point, after the Giants outscored the Bears by more than 1.5 points. Will our number 29 entry continue that trend, or will it be a lot closer? Be sure to join us after we release that video to find out. Thank you so much for making it here to the almost very end. Please take the time to like, share, and subscribe. Let's not forget to ding that notification bell if we haven't already, so that you don't miss out on the rest of this series or anything else the channel has to offer. The Eagles managed a couple of more playoff appearances before the 90s came to an end, but they were headed toward the absolute wilderness until they brought on Andy Reid as head coach. 1993 wasn't the worst season the Eagles would have, but it was the first stroke of the pen in what would become a sad on-field story. Let me know what you think about all of this. Do the 93 Eagles deserve the label of disappointment? Or were there enough factors in play that they deserve the pass? Don't be shy about sharing your thoughts on this team, this series as a whole, or anything else you may have on your mind down in the comments section below. Thank you once again for joining us today, and until next time, I hope you have an awesome day.